There you go. No harm, no foul. Oh, boy. Look, fella, I'm thinking there's no reason we can't keep this little incident between us, eh? Mistakes happen, and it's not your time. Unless you keep eating those processed foods, am I right? Seriously, stay away from those processed foods.
Hello and welcome to the Loose Butthole Reviews. I am your host Smokey, and joining with me as always is my co-host Spooge.
You know, sometimes I feel so tired. I can't eat. I can't sleep.
Alright, and joining with us on this review, we have our co-hosts, Murda and Starfish. They're finally back.
Oh shit, here we are. Hello.
Oh, get out of my head, man! Get out of my head, man!
And, like always, before we get into the review proper, there are 3 rules to the rating system of these reviews that I have to give. The first one is it must be a fraction of 5. 1 means we hate it, 5 means we love it. Rule number 2, if we want our money back, we give it that good old Jeff Goldblum rating. And rule number 3, if we all agree that it deserves a 6 out of 5, a God tier, then it will get a God tier. And today, we are reviewing from 2020 and re-released, I believe in 2024? 2023, maybe. Yeah.
23.
Yeah. Soul from Pixar and Disney.
Yeah, this one's really cool.
Man.
This one is a fan request, which is pretty sweet. Someone who listens to us fairly consistently. Thank you for listening and supporting us. And
Have they?
Yeah, it's a pretty great film.
Have they been listening to the Adult Swim episodes as well? I'm just curious.
I don't know. All I know is that they specifically have mentioned watching the Loose Butthole reviews.
Okay, gotcha. I was just curious. If I can get feedback on those, I would greatly appreciate that, by the way, if anybody's
Total
listening.
Request Live. Just call it TRL.
Oh!
Who gets to be Carson Daly?
You?
Not it.
No.
No.
No one wants to be Carson Daly. Does Carson
Damn.
Daly want to be Carson Daly? Probably not.
I mean, he's got more money than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true.
At least he isn't Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah. Maybe I guess I would be Carson Daly, maybe. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, seems like
I
seems like
vaguely
that would be him.
even know who the hell y'all are talking about.
Oh.
They're
You
all
watch
better than
MTV
James
Total Request
Corden.
Live?
He was a VJ for a really long time, from 1998 to 2003.
Okay.
Video disc jockey.
Is my
On him.
age? My age is showing, huh?
Yeah, both of ours are, but that's okay.
I watched MTV TLC, but
TRL.
Yeah, it's TRL, Total Request Live.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
I
same-
didn't
yeah,
watch it
no,
enough
Xbox
to
is
know
the same
that.
thing.
Live by Wii.
Obviously, I didn't watch it enough to remember the
To know
fucking.
acronym, yeah.
Yeah.
The name of it?
Like, I just know that it was that
But you
new
know what I'm
show
talking
on.
about,
It
right?
was. Yeah, it's the new show on MTV. Yeah, I know. I watched it vaguely, but I got to see the dying part of it when they started integrating Twitter into it really cringily. It was like,
I didn't
oh,
watch that part.
it was bad. It was bad. It was like, oh, aren't we new and
Twitter on
hip?
Twitter.
It's like, Twitter's not even that new and hip right now, man. Come on.
Don't y'all mean X?
Yeah,
No. Fuck no. I will never
Don't
call it
y'all
X.
mean
It's Twitter.
X.
yeah,
It's goddamn
yeah.
Twitter.
They mean X. So TRL was canceled
No,
due to declines in ratings
You
and the
understand
larger
X
secular
can refer
decline
to like
of
2
music-based
porn sites,
television in favor of online services. MTV would announce cancellation of TRL on September the 15th of 2008. The special 3-hour finale episode, Total Finale Live, aired on November 16th of 2008.
And I remember it being extremely fucking cringe.
Nah.
I didn't get that far into watching.
Oh, I watched it. I watched that fucking shit show of a nightmare. I didn't. It was a bunch of out of touch people trying to relate to the teenagers at the time, and it's just like, oh no, you're just not doing it.
It's almost like they should give us our MTV.
We can start talking about Soul.
Yeah, we kind of went off on a rant there. A tangent.
Yeah.
And we didn't even
It's
start.
okay. We've never done that before, so it's okay.
I think our fan will forgive us. Hear that, fan? better be gentle with us.
Better be forgiving.
Let us know what you think about the Adult Swim Inside. I want to know what you think about Inside mostly, because that's my second favorite movie.
Okay, but so pick one. Which one do you want me to direct this person to watch?
Inside. Well,
okay.
It's part of the Adult Swim. Adult Swim Time was a series of reviews that we did. If anybody's like, what the fuck does he mean by Adult Swim? That it was only like adult oriented. You don't show your kids those movies for sure.
You shouldn't show your kids any of these reviews.
Kids can watch Soul.
They can watch.
Can they
Soul,
watch this review?
But
Yeah,
they can listen to the reviews.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
wasn't saying they could listen to the reviews. I was
Unless they're
saying
cool.
the movies that we were reviewing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Definitely don't let your fucking 8-year-old watch The House that Jack Built. They might be scared shitless, or it might awaken something in them you don't want awakened.
Or third option, they might end up being the coolest kid ever.
You don't want that either. You don't want that either, because then your kid's gonna be cooler than you, and then you got to deal with that shit.
All their cool friends coming over and smoking in front of you and saying the S word in front of you. You want that? No, you don't want that.
No, they're so cool that they're straight edge too.
Yeah.
They're that cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool,
But
man.
they're not in your
That's
face
pretty
about
cool.
it either. They always hang around a bunch of people doing drugs, but they're just like, hey, I'm here. I got the Narcan.
Is that really even straight edge then? Because most straight edge people are like, fuck you, you do drugs, you piece of shit.
That's not accurate.
In Georgia,
Soul
that is.
is. Oh, okay.
But those are the ones that are loud. You don't hear about the ones that are just keeping it to themselves because they keep to themselves.
Because I've had that experience multiple times at shows that I've been with, that I went with Spooge with too. Just random motherfuckers come up to me and I have a drink in my hand. It's like, oh, look at that, you drinking alcohol, you piece of shit. It's like, I don't even fucking know you, man.
Sick.
No, straight edge I'm talking about still drinks.
No, I'm talking about the
Cool.
straight edge.
Cool straight edge.
They're not. They don't even fucking smoke cigarettes straight edge.
The thin, straight line.
I mean, they would be cool if they weren't also a neo-Nazi.
I
Gross.
mean, that cancels everything out.
Yeah. It's like, I would understand, but you got a swastika on your fucking arm.
I don't think anyone gets to judge it.
I was in prison. I had to do what I needed to do to survive.
I can't eat.
I
can't sleep.
I can't sleep.
But let's talk about the film. How about we do that since we're reviewing this film and all. So as previously mentioned, Soul is a 2020 American animated fantasy comedy drama, produced by Pixar, for Walt Disney. This film was directed by Pete Docter and co-directed by Kemp Powers, both of whom co-wrote it with Mike Jones, and produced by Dana Murray. It stars the voices of Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton, Rachel House, Alice Braga, Richard Ayoade, Felicia Rashad, Donnell Rawlings, Questlove, and Angela Bassett.
And
That's
just
it.
to clarify, Walt Disney did help with. I don't know what all production, but they also did help with production on this. I'm going to assume animation.
Cool.
Okay.
yeah.
The story follows Joe Gardner, who is voiced by Jamie Foxx. He is a middle school teacher and an aspiring pianist who falls into a coma following a series of accidents, and he seeks to reunite his separated soul and body in time for his big break as a jazz musician.
So, a musician is thrusted into the afterlife and has to seek a way to escape.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm getting
Basically,
I'm getting deja vu from Pixar here.
Hmm.
What is the other one?
Coco.
I didn't watch
I-
that one.
I am not up
Yeah.
to date on Pixar movies.
It's
Coco's a
the
little different.
it goes a little bit different, but it is the same exact uh, mini synopsis. It's a musician that is thrusted into the afterlife.
Well, it's a kid. It's a kid who doesn't know
well-
how to play an instrument yet, so it's
Well,
kind of
he-
different.
an aspiring musician,
Never played a guitar before.
an inspiring musician.
Wasn't sure if
Gets
he was
thrust-
even remotely interested in playing it. But sure.
I would say that is an inspiring musician. Can you not be?
I'm kind
I
of
think you mean okay, I'm gonna correct you here. I think you mean aspiring, because inspiring means like you're getting inspiration from them, but aspiring is someone who wants to do something.
Yeah, he means aspiring, but
He got inspiration
but I-
from. He was getting inspired from the person that he met in the afterlife.
well, there you go. There is a little inspiration, but I kind of see what you mean. But actually, what I'm seeing is that it sounds like Coco is kind of the inverse of Soul, of someone
Yeah.
who's not experienced and is finding kind of like their passion, for it. They're not sure
I
and
was-
stuff. When it's sort of the opposite, where someone who's already mastered it and believes that they have like this is their passion. Spoilers, kind of finds that maybe that wasn't really the main thing in their life.
I mean, in their musical careers, they're at different junctures in their one was at the very start of their music career, and one is in the cusp of their musical career. I will agree with that, but they're still musicians that are put into the afterlife against their will, and they are forced to find a way to escape.
Mm.
And there's one.
Yeah.
We'll wait. I'll hold this off. But I have one. There's one little tidbit that they could have done that I wouldn't be comparing to Coco at all. But we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Alrighty. But yeah, so we kind of join Joe here. We join Joe in his classroom, and he is teaching band at a middle school. And his kids are terrible. They don't really care if they sound good or if they sound bad. He is super passionate. It leads into this trombone solo as they're rehearsing, and the young lady who's doing it starts like really getting into the solo. And just a tidbit for any consistent listeners out there, like I play lead guitar in a band, and there are times where like I just get lost in like what I'm doing, and it's like I don't want to stop doing it, so like I immediately like related to that, and then all the kids stop playing because she's like still just like wailing her trombone on this solo, and then they all make fun of her.
Yeah, which personally I thought was like kind of one thing that didn't really feel like for like the youth of now. I feel like people would have been like into that, like knowing,
Yeah.
most kids today. I feel like they'd be flipping out their phones and being like, "Damn," putting it on TikTok.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
This is
even
like
my
very like
even,
'90s kids shit.
even
Yeah,
my
it
middle
is.
school and high school experience, that that totally would be what would happen. Like, people would be pulling out their flip phones and they'd be posting that shit on
Yeah.
Facebook and their
Yeah.
MySpaces.
Or honestly, yeah, more 80s shit where it's just like, oh, you have a passion for something.
You care about this class?
Yeah.
Gross. You
You play a
stupid.
trombone.
What? You're
Guitar's
dumb.
the only cool thing out there.
To be honest, I feel that kids nowadays are more prone to have things survive, so they would be getting more into this kind of musical, because it's jazz that they're playing. We need to. This
Yeah.
movie is more about the jazz than any other genre of music. We got to point that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you know, his class makes fun of this lady, and she sits down and is immediately discouraged, for getting laughed at by, you know, her peers. And then he's like, "Why are you laughing at her? Like, she got lost in the moment, you know?" And then he goes on to explain the first time he got lost in the moment. Um, and this is a recurring motif throughout the film, is him walking into somewhere new that he hasn't been before, and we hear a succession of these diminished four chords playing in sequence, that eventually break into a major key, which is really beautiful and also like a standard of jazz. And I know that's a lot of music theory talk, but like that's just like a thing that happens consistently in the music of the film when he goes to new places, which is really
I
cool how
mean,
they
this
kind of like tie all that together.
this music, this movie is kind of like a rough interpretation of music theory. So you can be talking about music theory all you want.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not gonna nerd out too hard on it because I do know, like, I do understand it's not exciting necessarily, but it's something that's really cool that happens, as well as you know, we get like a glimpse of like what inspired Joe, um, and then he gets a knock on his door. He has to leave,
I'm
and
sorry,
it's
but I
the
gotta take
principal.
the opportunity. We could say that it's just a theory, a music theory.
Yeah, it is. It
Thanks for
definitely is
watching.
that.
Enjoy the retirement, Matt
Cla-
Pat.
cla- oh, I'm sure he is. Um, but yeah, and the principal basically says, "Hey, you know, thanks for filling in for us. You know, I know that you're an aspiring musician and stuff, but we are ready to offer you tenure here to work at this middle school. And this is not good news for Joe. He's not like super happy to get that news that you know, he wants to be on the stage. You know, he doesn't want to be in a middle school teaching kids for the rest of his life because he's now a tenured teacher. And he doesn't say if he'll accept on the spot with her. He just kind of takes the paper, leaves. He goes to his mom's place of business, which is a tailor. Um, she's a excellent seamstress, and um, he basically tells her, you know, what went on in his day, and his mom is nothing but excited because we get like a quick montage here of all of the times that Joe has failed. And his mom is like bringing this up to him of like, "Oh, remember when you almost got this gig and you almost got that gig and you almost got this gig and you almost got that gig?" And we kind of see this like repetition in Joe's life of like never quite making it. Um, as this happens, um,
She's
Questlove,
being what some of us would call a dream crusher.
She is, but
yeah,
I was kind of like,
I mean,
I was hearing her. I was hearing her.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
totally. Um, as this is happening, he gets a phone call from Curly. Curly is voiced by Questlove. And Curly basically says, "Hey, our pianist bailed last minute, and you know, without you, I would have never gotten into the drums in middle school. And now I'm doing this like quartet with her first name's Dorothea, but I forgot her last name.
Oh,
Um,
that.
Dorothea.
Did you pull it up?
Oh, no, hold on.
I
Let's
usually
see.
have.
Dorothea Williams.
No.
And she's not. I don't think that she's a real person.
No.
Dorothea Williams? No, she's not.
No.
No, she's not. She's just in this. She's just in this film as
Yeah.
a legendary saxophonist.
Played
No, I
by
think kind of
Angela
implied in like in
Bassett.
the underground too.
Yeah,
Angela
she's
Bassett.
yeah, and she's underground as well. So Curly tells him all this, and he shows up, and she is like, pretty much done with everyone's shit. She's an excellent character, and I wish we got more of her. However, he sits down on the keys, and she's like, "Oh, we're down to middle school teachers now." Like, it's just like immediately with the attitude, which is great. But he sits down, he kind of gets into the flow state while they're playing like this little rehearsal and stuff. And she afterwards she tells him, "All right, Teach, you put on the nicest suit that you got, and you be here at 6." And so he's super stoked because this is a big break for him. And he's very excited about this, so much so that he is like walking super fast back home through the city. He almost gets crushed by many different things, almost gets hit by a car a couple of different times, and eventually falls into a manhole cover. And this is how he wakes up on a ethereal staircase with a giant blinding like white light at the end of it.
It's a goddamn escalator. It's not just a staircase. It's a fucking dangerous.
It's an escalator.
It's a bullshit, dumbass escalator. I fucking hate escalators.
Why?
They're dangerous.
You're open the gate.
Do you know how many fucking people get hurt by escalators a year, dude? They fucking
No.
kill people, actually. You don't get on escalators. Especially
Will
if
you
you're
say it
wearing,
one more time
if-
for me?
You don't get on fucking escalators. You don't fucking do it.
I mean, I
Escalators.
can't deny that they don't kill people because there was that one in China that like actually like opened up and like swallowed a lady like whole. She had to like push her kid like out of the way and then got crushed into the gears.
It might be a fake video, but I've literally seen a video where a kid gets sucked into it and it just rains blood. It's not pretty.
That sounds fake as fuck, dude. It rains blood, huh? Fucking Slayer
I might
over
be
here.
over exaggerating, but it basically looked like a human got popped. the blood, the effect of the blood. It looked real to me.
It was real to me.
All right.
And people,
but yeah.
it will fucking take your leg. I know one person that had to get their leg removed because of goddamn escalator. It will. The escalators are fucking dangerous. I'm telling you.
Watch
Especially if you got your shoelaces. This is the reason why I don't wear anything with laces. It'll get stuck in the goddamn escalator.
Oh, I'd be riding those things with loose laces all the time in my day. Living on the
Scooch
edge.
lives on the edge. Yeah.
Listen to this daredevil. Listen to this fucking daredevil.
Yeah. So he's on this escalator. And
I realized
he's...
I was muted that whole time.
Oh. Oh no.
You have something to say about
I
escalators?
just thought no one was listening to me. But
Oh.
I do think like escalators are dangerous, but I feel like by design elevators are more dangerous.
Oh, I've seen many people die in elevators.
Yeah.
Hey,
But escalators, they're scary. I'm not saying they're not scary. I don't
You
think
gotta be on your toes.
I don't think somebody got sucked in and blew apart though.
hey, somebody do the research for me and tell us in the comment section below.
No, because I wouldn't want
Live
to see that
leak
video if it was
content.
real.
Hey, Rotten. Hey, you're safe. Rotten.com don't exist anymore.
Oh.
Doesn't mean I'm safe on the internet.
No one's safe on the internet.
It's
No,
on someone's hard drive somewhere.
Yeah. So Joe wakes up on this dangerous device that is terrible, I guess, an escalator. And there is an old like soul next to him. Um, the animation has changed drastically. It went from kind of cartoony, but like its own style, like semi realism, to like almost chibi esque. And this old soul, Joe's like, wait, where am I? You know, I have to do this show. And this old soul tells him, oh, well, you're in the great beyond. And he's like, wait, I died, and then some other old souls show up, and they're like, well, I sure hope so. I've waited a really long time to get here. I was over 110 years, or I was 110 years old, or something like that. And he's like, no, I can't be dead. I can't be dead right now. And he starts freaking out. He like runs down the escalator. There's all these different like souls coming up. And
They're
I
all
do want
blue.
to mention they
They're
are all
all-
blue.
I don't like that. They should be more cut, because this is where the color from the video, from the movie, just completely saturates to nothing but fucking blue. It's a
I'll have
blue
a
color
problem with
palette
that.
as long as we're in the afterlife. It's a blue color palette until we get to the purple place, and then it's nothing but purple. It's like I love this, but you gotta give me more color, man. You gotta. Where's my greens, yellows, my reds, my pinks? Where is it?
I had a girlfriend, and she
Yeah,
was so blue.
I get it. Blue means death. I get it. If you know what you're talking about, usually blue is a sign someone is dead. So I understand, but everybody's fucking blue, man. Everybody. It's like, can you not vibrant it up? It's the afterlife. Come on, man. Like, why does it got to be so dull?
Maybe wherever they're going, it'll be more colorful.
Yeah, so that's actually a great point, Murdoch, because the only thing I was going to say to finish my sentence there is just that there's this huge like white light at the end of it, and these souls are on this escalator, right? And they're going up. As Joe's running, we see more souls like hit the white light, and it is like a bug zapper. It just goes.
I gotta
And
be a
I
nerd
like
here.
simultaneously was very scared of that, and also like thought that was like hilarious that like at the end of life you go on an escalator, you go up this thing to this big white light, and you just and I thought that was like both simultaneously terrifying and hilarious.
Well, I have to
Recycled.
point this out. White, the shade white, if we're talking about actual white, is the absent of color. So there is no color. There would be no more color. Like there would actually that is probably the blue finally going away. So it'd be even worse. It'd be fucking worse for me.
Okay.
It gave me Twin Peaks vibes, though, the zapping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But I can't say more.
Okay.
You better
But I
not.
won't.
You got
I won't
close.
say
Okay, okay,
Thankfully,
don't, I
don't get
guess.
it, but if I got it, I'd be
I
like,
won't.
it's kind of a spoiler.
But yeah, and so Joe bounces from this scene. He is not having that. He is not about to get bug zapped, and he's running, and he jumps off. And like at first he gets caught in mesh, and then he like fights his way through, and he like falls through this. And
I
this
love
was
this sequence.
this was one of my favorite sequences of the whole film. And we do get a little bit more of this style of sequence, but essentially what it is, and like how I kind of took this, just because of the way that I take things, is that like he is traveling through the fourth dimension. And like there's these like crazy different patterns and stuff. He goes through this like kind of web. Sometimes everything is like really bubbly, and then it will switch to like these really like harsh edges and stuff, and this like net. He kind of gets caught and like bounces in this like fiber for a second, then he falls through that. But he
I
kind of like
really
sinks
wanted
down
more of
into it.
this. I wish we got another
Yeah.
sequence of this, like just between the.
We get
the-
some homages of it, but not
Uh,
quite
tr-
to this
y-
degree.
We should have got a sequence of it between the blue place. I don't remember what they call it, in the purple place. I don't remember what they call that. That when he's
Yeah,
going through those borders,
answer that for you.
would have been a perfect. The border between them would have been a perfect place. Like that's the space between these ethereal dimensions. That would have been a nice little thing.
Yeah. So he was initially in a place called the Great Beyond. After this like pretty trippy, awesome like fall or traveling through the fourth dimension, as I personally see it. You could say it's traveling between realms in a way, or whatever your interpretation of that is. He lands up, or he winds up in a place called the Great Before. And in the Great Before, he sees all
It's blue.
of these
It's blue.
tiny
It's fucking
little
blue.
souls.
It's blue.
And they're
Is it
Oh,
blue?
it's blue. It's blue. The whole color, everything's fucking blue here. The grass, the souls, the sky. It's all blue. It's all shades of blue.
Well, I guess that means blue is the color of everything.
They Cowboy Bebop is right.
true.
I mean, it's the slowest color. So I mean, that means there's a lot of power going on right here.
I got you.
Cool.
For those that don't know, I'm being a
Those who don't
nerd.
Nice. But yeah, so he sees all of these different little tiny kind of soul little creature things running around. We were kind of like in Chibi-esqueville in the Great Beyond, but everyone kind of had their own like signifier of themselves. Like Joe has his hat and glasses. The old lady had like her hair. There was a couple of like other men who had like different hats, different
These souls are
hairstyles and
very
stuff.
Studio
Here-
Ghibli-esque.
Yeah, here they are very, very close to the suit sprites, or the creatures of the forest. That they're just kind of like these very plain oblong-ish, semi-humanoid like forms, with really big eyes and really big mouths.
And
So,
again,
anyways,
some color would have done if just there was some more color here. That just you don't even need the color to be representing the personalities like inside. You don't need to do that. You just need to make them different color, just to signify that they're different. Because everybody looks the fucking same. It's like,
well, I think the greater significance about like keeping everyone the same is that like because they are all the same, everyone has the same beginning, because this is the Great Before. All of these little souls are souls that are going to become human babies. And we find all this stuff out through one of the fourth dimensional creatures. In this, they refer to them as counselors, and they're all named
piece of
Jerry.
shit Jerry. A piece of shit Jerry. Terry's the way to go. Fuck Jerry's. Fuck the Jerry's. I don't like the Jerry's.
The fourth dimensional beings aren't blue.
What's
I
that?
like the fourth
The
dimensional
fourth
beings.
dimensional beings are not blue.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
they're not.
I thought
Except
they
for,
I
except
thought the
for
design,
Terry. Terry is the only one that's blue.
Terry's not blue. He's the same color as them. What are you talking about?
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. He is the same
No, he's
color as
not.
them.
Oh, we gotta
Yes.
have photo evidence of Terry. I think he's blue.
Terry is not blue.
Abadi abadai.
Hold
I
on.
think Terry's
He
blue.
looks blue because he's in the blue dimension, but he's the
Or
same
he's
color
like-
as them.
Terry is a white outline. Terry is a white outline with hints of blue surrounding her.
Her? Oh.
Oh, okay.
Jerry is a translucent purple.
Oh.
Here, I'm sending a picture to the chat.
kind of hard to remember because I remember them being lines.
Yeah, I was talking about the lines. I wasn't talking about the colors
Yeah,
around
their
them.
lines aren't blue.
Well, I
They're
guess we'll
white.
see.
I mean, all of their lines are white, but
That's
the
what I was.
shading that's used on them, the Jerry's are purple
I guess I
and
just
Terry's
I
assumed
wasn't
they were
blue.
talking about the
transparent.
shadings.
Maybe they're
I was
translucent.
talking about the fucking lines.
Okay. Anyways, so Terry's the best one, right?
Yes, Terry's the fucking best one.
Okay.
Gotta keep count.
All right. Anyways, so these Jerrys are these fourth dimensional creatures. And the reason I call them fourth dimensional creatures is because they can do things that no soul can do, as well as like bend through time and space uh at ease.
Didn't
Which is
they
something really
establish
cool
they
that
were
they
fourth
did.
dimensional creatures? I thought they established that in the movie.
No, they never
They
never
didn't?
said anything. They never said anything specifically of that. They just said the only thing that they said is that like you could refer to me as like the universe, or like, not necessarily the creator, but like the spiritual guider, or like something like that. Like they never specifically said they were fourth dimensional creatures. I'm choosing to call them that because that's how I interpreted them. Oh, please unmute for that spooge.
Yeah, I'm glad that got caught in your audio though. That definitely picked up.
You're muted, but we all heard you yell.
Say it again.
Well, it sounds like they heard.
No, we didn't.
You gotta
Aw.
say it again, man. You got to.
And
It is
take.
I, the fourth dimensional Ziltoid the Omniscient.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thank
boy.
you. But yeah, so we find out quite a lot from the Jerry. One of the things that we find out from the Jerry is that everything here is a new soul. And the Jerrys kind of go through and they grab the new souls and they transport them, and they kind of go, okay, here, you're going to be an emotionally available soul. You're going to be a shy soul. You're going to be a old soul. You're going to be a complicated soul.
And
And
this
they
is
kind
the
of send
part,
them to these like little schools.
and this will be the last time I bring this up. This is the part. All the little souls should have been blue. That's cool. That's great. This is the part where they should get their color, their individuality, their the it factor that makes them them, and then they went.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
Yeah, they could have come out with different colors.
Yeah, that would have been cool. To give like a kind of symbolic, like, hey, they've gone through the schooling type of thing. They're no longer like a blank canvas completely. However,
You
there
could even
is
have
one.
it to where they're changing color when they're going to Earth. Just have it to where like all the blue starts
Yeah.
changing to different colors. That would have been so fucking cool. That's a missed opportunity.
Yeah. So this Jerry's showing Joe around, and they eventually come to this big giant hole, and the hole in the Great Before leads to Earth. Joe tries jumping a bunch and it doesn't work, and the Jerry goes, "Oh, you must be a mentor, because otherwise, why would you be here in the Great Before? And so you're supposed to help new souls find their spark." So you'll have to come to this. You could either sign up to be a mentor, or you can go to the Great Beyond. And he does not want to go to the Great Beyond because that means death, essentially, like complete loss of his soul. And so he puts on a name badge, and then he goes into the mentor thing, where he gets confused for a specific person. And that person is Dr. Bjorn P. Bjorgensen, a child psychologist who has won the Nobel Prize in psychology. However, there, just as an aside here, there is no Nobel Peace Prize in psychology, but that doesn't necessarily prevent psychologists famously Daniel Kahneman, to have won Nobel Prizes in other fields. There's just not a Nobel Peace Prize for psychology.
Doesn't
What about
doesn't
Bjorn
you?
Jorgensen?
I
Well,
thought Nobel.
in this world, he has won the Nobel Prize in child psychology.
I thought the
But they're
Nobel.
just in our world, there is no that is not a category for a Nobel Peace Prize. Psychology.
Yeah, I thought
is not
Nobel
one.
Peace Prizes could only be won by like people that were pieces of shit and then did something great, like the dude that invented gunpowder that
Is that the
that made the Nobel Peace
requirement?
Prize.
Well,
Does it
that-
have to be a piece
well,
of shit?
Yeah, I mean that's specifically Dr. Nobel that invented the prize to begin with. However, no, you do not have to be a piece of shit and then do
Oh,
something
they-
great to win
I,
one.
I understand
Um,
why you think that. 'Cause then I think doesn't
That
Henry-
should be
like Henry
that should be the
Kissinger have a Nobel
criteria.
Peace
That
Prize?
should be the fucking criteria. You could
Or am I wrong?
continue, Starfish.
I'm finding out right now.
'Cause I feel like Henry Kissinger got that shit.
Yes. So for Henry Kissinger's role in negotiating the end of the Vietnam War, he was awarded the 1973 Nobel Peace Prize under very controversial circumstances. A practitioner of a pragmatic approach to politics called realpolitik. He has been widely considered by scholars to have been an effective Secretary of State. However, and that's just straight from Wikipedia under Henry Kissinger. But we should mention that Henry Kissinger is a notorious war criminal that could not live pretty much anywhere except for the U.S. due to his constant wanton destruction of other nations for the sake.
Ninja. This is my magic bag.
Yeah, exactly. For specifically, he did it all for the sake of U.S. imperial power. Henry Kissinger led an interesting and terrible life. Definitely go look at that outside of this movie.
But didn't
however,
he win a Nobel Peace Prize?
yes, he did. However, traditionally, what the Nobel Prize is supposed to represent, and typically it's awarded for there's the Nobel Peace Prize, there's the Nobel Prize for Science, there's Nobel Prize for Mathematics, and so on and so forth. There's just not one for psychology. That was my only point with that. I did not mean to go on like a 5-minute tangent with this. I just wanted to mention that there was no Nobel Prize in psychology.
Hey, that's the problem. You don't know what's going to cause the tangents. You just don't know.
Keep you guessing.
Yeah, that's true. So anyways, Joe is thought to be Dr. Bjorn P. Bjorgensen, and as such, he receives a soul, and that soul is number 22, which means she is the 22nd soul to ever exist, out of 108 billion at this point, and she has never ever gone down to Earth. She has been up here this entire time.
They should have made her number 23.
I would have loved that. I love the number 23 so much. It's so much better than 22.
Well,
but anyways,
it's because of
22.
It's because number 23 theory.
Yeah, that is part of it. But I have other reasonings besides that. And yes, also Murda because of that Jim Carrey film.
Well, the Jim Carrey film is based on the 23 theory.
Yeah, I know. So 22 is voiced by Tina Fey, and let me tell you, she does a great job.
It surprisingly took me a long time to recognize her voice.
Yeah, I thought you were Ellen DeGeneres at first.
Wait, who did you think? Who did you think she was?
Apologize to Tina Fey right now. Apologize
Ellen
to Tina
DeGeneres?
Fey.
Yeah, is that her?
Oh
is that how you say her name?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, you said it right. It's just I didn't hear you at first.
That was such an insult to Tina Fey.
Yeah, but I mean, that wasn't my favorite character of the movie either. But they weren't as annoying as Ellen DeGeneres. But it just kind of sounded. I couldn't figure out who it was.
Thought it was
So
another Dory.
Not just that, but Ellen DeGeneres
Yeah.
is a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean she is. But that's okay. I don't want to get into like Ellen DeGeneres scandals right now.
She
So
made people cry.
Yeah,
No other celebrity ever has done this.
it's true. What a monster.
Promoted positivity and then is an asshole
The
behind
the
the scenes.
toxic positivity.
So
Yeah.
She's just the American James Corden.
it's false positivity, you can say. But let's
Yeah.
continue. Let's continue. Let's move on.
Yeah. So Joe, under the auspices of being Bjorn P. Bjorgensen, doctor, um, he is assigned to 22 to help her find her spark. She's already completed all of the other schooling and like emotional intelligence, all that kind of stuff that she needs in order to become a human baby. However, she doesn't have her spark. And she is incredibly stubborn, salty, and jaded about it.
I mean, she's basically everybody if we could actually have a choice. She just doesn't want to. In the end, she just doesn't want to fucking do it. She just doesn't. She's cool. She's happy with what she's got.
Yeah, she's
She
pretty
doesn't wanna
content
go.
in living. She's pretty content in just staying in the Great Before and not really ever doing anything. At first, they are in Doctor Bjorn P. Bjorgensen's like life and like all of his memories. And she goes, "Look, I get that your life was cool, but like none of this is going to give me my spark." And he's like, "Wait, no, this isn't my life." And then he kind of changes it um, to Joe Gardner's life, and we see kind of a tragic tale of a consistently failing musician who is alone.
Some
Um,
would say tragic, others would drastically relate and be like, "Hey, that's life. Yep, that's perfect, perfect
All the
interpretation
times that
of
you
life."
just got so tired and you couldn't eat, you couldn't sleep.
but yeah,
No one
so
got
we see.
the reference that I was doing. That's life. No, okay.
That's life.
Thank
That's
you.
life.
But yeah, we see him constantly getting turned down to join with different groups. We see, a childhood with a father that was fairly absent for most of it. We see him eating alone consistently at a diner. Um, we also see him playing piano quite a lot. Um, and he sees himself playing piano and he's like, well, maybe this is it. Like maybe your spark is music and you've just like never interacted with a musician before. Um, because like all of these different like like great mentors or like great peoples essentially from Earth have like tried to get 22 to find her spark. Um, all the way from like uh, Gandhi to like Keats. And nothing's really ever worked for her.
We're you shouldn't have said Gandhi. Gandhi was the bad example. Let's-
I mean, I think at this point we didn't know. It was 2020, right?
I mean,
The thing didn't happen.
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, we definitely knew, but what? I mean, also we get Mother Teresa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We also
We've known about that before 2020, I think.
there's also Freud. Like, there's not a lot of great people. Like, they're great in some
Freud do?
ways, but terrible in other ways.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it, Starfish.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, it just kind of depends on like who you're looking at and stuff. But
I'm going
anyways,
to assume whoever picked Gandhi, they just don't know. They can't know.
yeah, I mean, Western society doesn't really tell you of the wrongs of Gandhi. Um,
Yeah.
um, however, so this doesn't really work for her. She's not really interested in like Joe's, life. So they end up going to the music, or excuse me, not the music. They end up going to the Hall of Everything, and it's literally everything on Earth. And I thought this was like kind of a terrible example, um, because we find out really quickly in the Hall of Everything that you cannot taste and you cannot feel, and so much of the creature comforts and like things that make, like, at least in my opinion, life worth living, is like sensations, like
that
hearing, seeing, touching, feeling, tasting,
I mean,
smelling.
they can hear and
Sleeping,
see.
eating.
Yeah, they can hear and see, but they can't do any of that other stuff.
I
And they
mean,
can't sleep either.
some people would be that nightmare, but some people are tortured by tactile
No,
and what
I
what would be called aromic hallucinations, that they would love this kind of existence if like they just didn't have to do that. This would be like heaven for them
Get
because
me on the
they
first flight to limbo.
Yeah, no, I
because
mean, I
some
get that.
people
I'm just saying
just
that,
can't
like,
relate
I'm
no
just
matter
saying,
what.
yeah. No, and all my only point was is that's like a lot of like what makes life worth living for me is those things. Is like feeling, like physical feeling, or smelling or tasting. But
Just got to point out
regardless,
that Smokey, he vibes with 22. He understands 22. He gets it. Everybody just needs to leave 22 alone.
Leave 22 alone in non-existence.
yeah. Um, so they go through a whole bunch of different things, trying to get her to get her trying to get her to get her spark badge, and nothing's really working. Um, they, they try baking, they try being a librarian, they try like literally everything, um, and nothing is really working for her like whatsoever. Um, and um, he's really distraught by this, because his plan was to get her spark, and then to be able to leave the Great Before. Since she doesn't want to leave anyways, he could just take her Earth badge and then go back to his body. That's like the plan, and she's in on this. And so after trying everything, she's like, "Well, I don't know why you would want to return to like your sad little life, so I'm going to try and help you." And so she goes into this box, that leads to this like completely different realm, and this is a different portion of the Great Before that is um known. Oh man, I can't remember exactly what they called it, but it's essentially the flow state where, um if you've ever like been playing games and just like you're pressing every
Didn't they
right
call it
button
the
at the
zone?
exact right time.
They
Yeah,
didn't.
they might have called it the zone. I don't. Yeah, they probably did call it the zone. I
I
don't
feel like
remember
they called it
exactly
the
what they called
zone.
it. Um, but yeah, if they did, I mean, the zone is also like a great way to describe it. It's just for me, like I
Yeah,
consider
they
it
do
the
call
flow
it the
state.
zone. They visit the zone,
Um,
a place where that
okay,
souls enter their passions to create a euphoric trance.
yep. And we find out quickly that the zone is a double-edged sword. Um, because there are also souls that are in there that look like these awesome, like hulking beasts type of like vibe going on with them. And it's for people who get obsessed by something, and they just like they're no longer in that like euphoric flow state. they're just like obsessed with like, oh, I have to do this, like, and it's like the negative side of the zone. Um, as well as like when you look at the people who are like floating in the zone, are like in a flow state, like they're nailing every note as they're playing their cello, they're syncing every shot as they're playing basketball, they're pressing every right button when they're playing their video games. They're just like absolutely in that like perfect state of like focus and euphoria that
This
I've been in that
happens.
state
this could have been
of
a great opportunity to have a physical metaphor for drug addiction.
yeah. If they
Coulda-
wanted to go that deep.
Yeah, they could, but they could have showed someone doing a substance, and then it puts them in the euphoric zone for a while, and then later on we could have seen the same person, but they were turning into one of those creatures. Like it's finally not doing its job.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um,
Have y'all has everyone been in the flow for various reasons?
absolutely.
Yeah,
No.
I can say I've been in the
No?
flow before.
Nah.
Damn.
Who's not even at like a show or something?
I mean, there's always like something that if I even start to get to that point, like I usually just break out of it. It's crazy
Yeah.
I get it when I'm rolling joints back to back. I just get in that
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. I get into it while I'm dancing.
Yeah, I have three different like flow states, and they're all three different things. For me, I will get into a flow if I start like writing. Um, like when especially like I'm in college right now, so I'm writing like quite a lot of different like papers and stuff, and they all have to be like 5 to 7 pages. So like I kind of get into this like state of like flow with that. I also get into the flow whenever I'm like making music, which I do on a weekly basis. And then um, I also get into the flow whenever I'm like really getting into Elden Ring because I'm playing it for the first time right now.
EDD.
But yeah.
I had to put
Anyways,
my Elden Ring playthrough on hold because of Ghost of Tsushima.
that's fair. Ghost of Tsushima is an excellent game. But yeah, if you haven't ever experienced the flow state, it's truly magnificent. And it's so awesome when you're able to just like completely like you're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about your next move. You're not thinking about the future, the past, the present. You're just like in like you are in the now is like the best way for me to like describe like what it is. Um, But so they enter this place, and we very quickly see a ship coming, floating, like gliding across the sands of the zone. And it's a ship, like a pirate style ship, like it looks like a galleon, and it has tie tie dye masts, or not masts, sails on its masts, and it looks awesome, and it's got
These are
like a
the
huge like
souls that needed color the most. These souls could have been tie dyed. Like you could have just tie dyed these. So that would have been so fucking cool. I want my soul to be tie dye. I don't want a fucking. I don't want a blue soul. I don't. I need color. Damn it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we meet Moonwind and various different like other names that are like very hippie names. Like I don't even remember like all of them. But Moonwind is the main one that's like important here.
Oh, wait.
Um, and Joe and 22 tell Moonwind like what's going on. And Moonwind's like, well, I've never done anything like that before. But because their main job, what they do whenever they're in the zone, like collectively, because they meet up there. Like I think they said like every Wednesday at like 2 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what their schedule was, but they meet up there like regularly, like every week or twice a week or something. And while they're there, the souls who drop out of the euphoria trance and become trapped and obsessed, they become the lost souls. Um, they actively try to heal them through like drum circles and like chanting and stuff. And we see a representation of this, and it's this one dude that's just like make a trade, make a trade, make a trade, and he's like a stockbroker. And he and this was also one of my favorite scenes in the whole film, where he's just like make a trade, and we go back. They rescued him, so he's no longer in the lost soul like beast thing. He like goes back, and he goes back to his body, and he's like, this is pointless, I'm wasting my life here. And he just like, he's got like 4 monitors and like 3 keyboards on his desk. He just like wipes it off. He's like, you have to free yourselves. And he just like goes through the office, just like destroying this office. It's just great. um yeah.
He went Jesus on their asses.
Yeah, he did. um he went America all over everybody's asses by giving them freedom. um but yeah, so Moonwind's really interested in Joe's idea, which is to find some place where the zone is thin, so that they can see Joe's body, so he can jump back in there. And this is kind of a collaborative idea between Joe and Moonwind. They find the space, and they have Joe concentrate on his physical body, and like, where is he exactly? He's in the U.S. He's in New York. He's in New York City. He's at this hospital. He, you know, is hearing a heart monitor beeping. And he says that he feels fur. At the sign of him feeling fur, both 22 and Joe get sucked into the portal. And um, very quickly we realize that Joe has been sucked into the body of a cat, and 22 has been sucked into the body of Joe.
And this is the part of the movie where I go, damn it. I was liking it up until this point, but after this point, it's just
Even
I
with
didn't
all
like
the
this.
blue?
I liked it. I liked it.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
with all the blue?
Yep. Even with the lack of color, I was just being nitpicky the whole time. I was enjoying it all up until this point, and then it's like, oh, well, I see where we're going with this. Okay.
I liked it because this movie like changes a bunch, and I didn't expect each change. But I knew nothing going into this movie. Um, I had literally no context.
This is
for
my
anything.
second watch of this.
So I was surprised when the cat thing happened. I was surprised when he died. I didn't even know. I know it was the beginning of the movie basically, but I wasn't expecting him to die. So everything was surprising me in this movie.
I think that's fair. I do think you have a great point there, Murda, is that like this film hops around quite a bit. Where we kind of go from like this kind of like overarching narrative to like this like friendship kind of drama a little bit, and then we kind of go into like almost like a buddy comedy movie for like a little bit, and then it's kind of like switches around again. um I think they actually like pull most of it off, for the most, like they pull it off for the most part. um but well, we can talk about that more in final thoughts.
Yeah, let's hold off that. Yeah, let's do that.
Save it.
Yep. And so Joe is now in the body of a hospital therapy cat, and 22 is in the body of Joe. And they now have to figure out, 22's never been in a body before. So she's got to figure out like how to walk and how to like move around and like all this stuff. And so like Joe as the therapy cat, and I'm really glad that that they went with like a pretty chunky therapy cat. Like has to like press the elevator button and like open the door and like all this stuff, and they're trying to escape the hospital because he's just come out of a coma, and they're trying like they eventually get to the outside, and I know everyone on here, I believe, is neurodivergent, and I've also experienced this too because I'm very sensitive to sound. Um, just going outside of the hospital where it's like a hospital waiting room, which is like not very full because it's the middle of the day, and the outside is like cars whizzing by, horns honking, people like huge groups of people walking and like talking very loudly, construction work going on, like the engines of like a big truck happening, and like and like a police person like guiding traffic and blowing a whistle, and it's just like overwhelming, and it's a super bright day, and it's just like this, it's just
Yeah.
the absolute shock to the system.
It
um,
resonated with me.
Hey, y'all understand what I experience 24/7. That's great.
Yeah, I totally understand it.
yeah
The sensory overload.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and I mean,
get
just because I'm
with
someone who
my
enjoys
mental
sensory
disorder,
things
I
doesn't mean
get
that
that.
I have
I'm
like
getting that right
sensory
now.
issues.
Well, I'm
Like,
sorry.
Yeah.
It's a cacophony of noise 24/7. Continue.
Fair.
Okay.
No, we were giving
Um.
you some silence.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
It's
giving
not
you
gonna
giving you
work,
space if you
but
wanted to
okay,
speak
thank
on it.
you.
We
But
need some
okay.
dead air.
But yeah. So 22 is immediately frightened as fuck by this. Like she'd never experienced anything like this. So she immediately goes and hides. Joe, she's able to understand Joe, I guess, because they went through at the same time is the only like reasoning. Like there's no like clear defined reason why she can understand what a cat is saying to her. But they can understand each other clear as day. And I think if they weren't able to, there would have been a lot of headaches for this film. Um, but Joe's like, oh well, maybe I know it's scary, but like we have to find Moonwind because like I need to be in my body and you need to not be here. Like, and so they're very convinced that they can find Moonwind. Um, and uh, what Joe ends up doing is like, oh well, maybe you're like just like feeling weird, like because you've been in a my body has been in a coma, so like it's probably stiff and sore, like you're probably hungry, like all this stuff. And so he eventually goes to like a New York like pizzeria and like steals a slice off of like one of the pies that had just come out and brings like is dragging it through the street. And then there's like a rat that is also has like a piece of pizza, and they're like dragging it like opposite ways. It's really cute. It made me chortle
It's
at
a
it just
reference.
because like
It's a
yeah.
reference. Hey,
Yeah.
everybody's seen that video online. It's the rat that carries the pizza down the subway
Yeah.
stairs. You seen it? You seen
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, see, I've seen it. Yeah. But I mean, I liked that. I thought it was cute in like multiple different facets. Um, but Joe brings 22 in Joe's body, a slice of pizza, and she's like, I don't know, I don't ever know about this. Like this is weird, and he's like, but smell it. Doesn't it smell good? I bet you want to take a bite out of it. And so she takes a bite, and like we zoom inside of Joe's head, and we see 22 just like become this like hologram of like rainbow colors, is like bouncing around and going all crazy of like, it's so good, and just like is
Disney
extremely
Disney Pizza strikes again.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like that goofy movie pizza.
Yeah, Disney Pizza's like a mythical level of pizza I've never like truly experienced, but I want to.
Just gotta go to New York.
I guess so.
Every,
But yeah,
everybody's always trying to recreate the Disney pizza, but they never can.
yeah. Well, it's got
The
a weird
closest
consistency.
the closest I've gotten, and it was pretty close, was the Dion's.
Oh, the Dion's? Yeah, Dion's is
Mhm.
dank ass pizza.
It had that cheese pull.
Good cheese.
The cheese pull is very important to the Disney pizza.
I
Cheese
feel
pull is
like if you get
essential.
that cheese pull, gravity would work against you and the cheese would slide.
It does. It does, and it also does in the Goofy movie. Like it's like Rickon. So they're realistic about it.
Or
Gotta
if it's
sacrifice it. Yeah.
if it's Cece's or Stacy's pizza, then there's no pull at all. It just falls off of the pizza.
Cheesecake's pizza does not depend on
CC's
the cheese
pizza.
in
That
relation
high-
to
It's
Goofy.
literally just a
High
skin.
quality pizza.
It's a skin of cheese.
Get a cheese on a grease. On just grease.
But yeah, and then so we kind of see 22 like, oh well, you know, she likes pizza. And
Mango potty?
they are trying to figure out how to get to Moonwind. And so Joe brings her a couple more slices of pizza, and they're like, "Hey, look, like we have to find this guy so that we can like actually switch and stuff." And so they have Joe kind of like wave down a taxi, and he's like, "Cause first thing is like we gotta put on like clothes, like we're just in this hospital gown." Just like in a hospital gown, like walking all weird through New York. Uh, but anyways, so they try to wave down a cab. They finally get one, and the cab happens to be filled with oh, what is her name again? I'm gonna forget it. Theodora, something.
Dorothea?
Yeah, Dorothea. That's what it is. It's filled with
Williams.
Dorothea Williams, and Curly, and the bass player that never like gets a name as far as I have seen. But it's filled with the whole band that he's going to be playing with later that night. And he's in a hospital gown, and so like they definitely saw him. And it like Joe tries really hard to like hide his body and himself like from Dorothy as they're getting into the cab and stuff. Um, but but the jig is up. She definitely saw. And they leave. They go back to Joe's apartment, and Curly starts just like blowing him up. Um, end up to like taking the call, finding out that you know they're gonna go with somebody else that night, unless he can get there early with a very nice suit and like prove his shit to Dorothea. And as this is happening, Trombone Girl shows back up, and she's basically like, "Oh, like I don't want to do this anymore, Mr. Gardner. Like this is stupid. Trombone's stupid. Band is stupid." And keep in mind, you know, this is a middle school girl who just got like laughed out of the classroom. Um, and 22 is like, no, you know what, you're the cat, I'm a human, I could do whatever I want, I'm gonna go talk to her, like I think she deserves to be talked to. And so 22 like is the one that actually listens to her, and she's just kind of there for her, and like in a non-confrontational or like non-criticizing way. um, and she plays the solo, like she plays her trombone like solo thing that she like came up with. It sounds like pretty sweet, and then she's like, you know what, I am gonna keep doing this, and like that's kind of it.
22 is going to be a good school counselor.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, they show. She goes back into the apartment and stuff, and you know, uh, Joe's like, okay, well, you know what? We have to be there early now. We need to get like dressed nice and taken care of and stuff, and then we need to go find Moonwind and like switch bodies and stuff. And so they do end up finding Moonwind, who is like just a street sign spinner, like in the middle of New York City, and he's just like permanently in the flow state, which is really cool. But yeah, he basically tells them that like, okay, well, I can do this, but like it's going to be kind of difficult and time's going to be short, but I will meet you outside of the venue like before you have to play. um and so they're like, all right, like, you know, deal. And as all this stuff is happening, um because I've kind of taken like Joe's angle from this. 22 inside of Joe's body is just kind of like experiencing all the like sights and sounds, and you know, textile things, tactile things, I guess, like on Earth, and like she like lays on like a vent and like looks up at the sky, sees a bunch of like stuff fall, like leaves falling and stuff, and like different like hours of the day go by and stuff, and like different like sunlight angles and stuff. Um, and she's just like experiencing life on Earth. Um, they end up going back to Joe's place, getting into his nice suit, getting him all ready for the show for tonight. And then, but he's got his hair. He needs to like line up his hair, give himself a nice cut. And since he's a cat holding an electric razor, like it is super shaky. But he stands on a stack of vinyl um, to to like try and like cut his own hair as he's inside the body of a cat, and the vinyl slips, the sleeve jacket slips off the vinyl, and the razor blade just goes straight down the middle of his head, and now he looks ridiculous. um, and so they have to now go to the barber. They have to go see Dee's. um, and Dee's the whole thing with Dee's is like pretty cool. It gets pretty like existential here, at like a couple of different points. But they go to the barbershop, and Dee like takes off the hat, and Dee's is like, oh man, well, this is an emergency, like you get out of this chair, like I gotta get to him like now. And as they're doing it, like 22 is just kind of talking about like her experiences in like life, kind of like through Joe, like Joe as the cat,
I
like
have to
telling her
bring
all
this
this
up.
stuff.
They should have had D's say a clever line like, I'm rich and I'm on the beach or something like that. Because of the voice actor that's
I'm rich
playing
and I'm
him.
on the...
Because the dude that plays him is the dude that says,
Oh,
I'm rich,
that was
bitch.
the way I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought-
Oh,
Daniel
Donnell
Rawlings.
Rawlings. Yeah.
Daniel
Yeah, you're right.
Rawlings, yeah. So they should have did a clever I'm rich bitch Easter egg, but they didn't.
These what?
See, man,
Yeah.
my
nuts.
genius is always wasted.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Become a writer, I guess. I'm not sure.
You
I'm
should
trying,
have played to
but
my
they won't let me in.
lowbrowness of an audience. I was expecting these nuts. And I was
Yeah.
disappointed.
Yeah,
that
I
didn't
was
hear.
expecting D's nuts too.
Expecting these nuts.
Hey, I was being a lot more
Always
clever
be
than
expecting D's nuts.
that. I was being a little more clever than that.
And that's where you failed. You should have stopped being clever and been dumb.
At this point, Terry's finally figured out that Joe Gardner is the one soul that is missing. And we should mention, Terry is the person who is not a Jerry, but he is a fourth dimensional creature, just like the Jerrys. And his only purpose is to count and make sure that the number of souls going into the great beyond is the correct number. And he is off by one. Or she is off by one. Excuse me.
Which I think,
Um,
to be honest, I think fourth dimensional beings would be above and beyond the concept of gender. But if they want
I think so.
if they want to add the mortal concepts that is gender to immortal beings, then that's completely fine.
Yeah, and something else to mention here real quick. Terry is voiced by Rachel House. The two primary Jerrys, there's one more feminine and one more masculine. The feminine one is voiced by Alice Braga, and the masculine one is voiced by Richard Ayoda.
It's more than two Jerrys, though.
Who is the cool guy from the IT crowd. I know, but I'm just talking about like the ones who have the most lines.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that everybody that's listening knows that there's more than two Jerrys. And there's only one Terry. Terry's all alone, which is bullshit.
There's only one Terry.
But that's what I like about Terry. The individual stands the fuck out. Yeah. Terry's the best.
Yeah, it's true. But yeah, Terry's finally figured this out, and he has convinced the Jerrys, in a way, I suppose. The Jerrys definitely belittle the Terry. Like the Terry is kind of seen as like a less than creature.
Yeah,
Like
see,
that
the
was the
group
kind of
is a
vibe I was getting.
the group is attacking the individual. It's foul play, man. It's fucked up.
Yeah,
Fuck
yeah, but
Jerry's. Fuck the
yeah.
Jerry's.
Tails time.
Um, so the Terry is given license to go down to Earth and find the Joe Gardner soul. And in the barber shop, there's this one dude who just like keeps uh, giving Joe the business, which I don't remember that character's name. Um, is it Paul? It might be Paul. Um, but anyways, um, 22 has no filter or like social etiquette like whatsoever. And so like when he's saying these things, he's just like, oh, just like, so you're telling me that, he's just projecting like his own personal failures upon me to make himself feel better. And 22 says this out loud like to his face, and he's just like, man, you cut deep. um but he gets a haircut and everything's fine. Like Joe gets a haircut and stuff, and they're leaving. They run into Joe and 22 run into Paul again, and like Joe's like, "Hey, look, like I still want to be your friend," and like all this stuff. And Terry's hot on their trail at this point. So Terry's waiting around the corner for Joe to walk around the corner, and we see a person walk around the corner. Terry launches this person into like the fourth dimension, and we get like these really cool visuals again. His body's like uh kind of like in suspended animation almost, and like weightless, and there's like these cool backgrounds and stuff. And Terry's like, you thought you could outsmart me, Terry, and like all this stuff. It's great. And so this guy, I feel really bad for him because he comes in, he talks shit to Joe, and like gets his ass handed to him super hard, like within his like barbershop, like in his community. And then immediately after that, he gets blasted into the fourth dimension and like has like a huge existential crisis. Um, because like if you were blasted into the fourth dimension just walking down the street in New York, like I feel like that would change your life and perspective of your life like pretty much forever. um
Sometimes you gotta be blasted into the fourth dimension. I do it to
yeah,
myself all the time.
yeah, I mean Terry loves to do that. And yeah, it was just a great scene. um but yeah, so let's see. After all that stuff, the day's starting to end down, like wind down and stuff. Joe and 22 make it back to Moonwind, and this time it's to return Joe to his body. However, 22 doesn't want to leave Joe's body anymore, and Joe hits her with the line of like, "You don't actually like being here. You only like it because you're in my body." Um, and 22 takes off on foot. Um, they Joe runs it through a subway station. 22 takes off in Joe's body, running down a subway station. To which Joe, still as a cat, like chases her through it. However, 22 traps both of them like in the freeze, like suspended animation stuff, and brings them back, both of them, to the great before.
Terry does
Um,
that, not
uh,
22.
yeah, Terry does that. Terry brings them back to the great before. 22, coming back to the great before, discovers her badge is complete. Um, but Joe's like pretty like pissed off at her because like she just ruined like his only chance of like this once in a lifetime make or break like gig that he was gonna have. Um, and basically, telling her that, like, look, you have no spark, you have no purpose of your own. The only reason that you ever actually even cared is because you were in my body and I was directing you to do things I wanted to do. Um, this like severely emotionally damages 22. So she throws the Earth badge at him, and then she retreats back into her box and back into the zone. Um, Jerry then tells Joe that a spark is not a soul's purpose in life, um, but Joe refuses to believe this, um, and d- and he very discreetly uses 22's badge that got thrown at him to return to Earth. Um, then we have the show at the jazz club. It's super successful. However, after the show, he's outside talking to Dorothea Williams, and he's like, "Oh man, that was so great." And she's like, "Yeah, you play 100 shows. Every once in a while, you have a standout one like tonight, and it was great." And Joe's like, "Wait, what?" Like, this is the moment that he's wanted all his life, to be the piano player at a jazz, like at a happening jazz scene, and to like have people just like love the music that he's making. And it's just not hitting.
I
Um,
mean, I don't know what year this is taking place, but if it's taking place in the year that it was released, I get people still love jazz. I love jazz, but it's just whoa, what a you gotta come to terms. Jazz is not the it music scene right now, man. You gotta accept that. If you're gonna be a jazz musician, you gotta accept that it's not the in genre. You're not gonna get much appreciation for jazz like you do
You
for
gotta mix
the
it with
the
something.
well,
yeah.
that's not the point of that, like, at all. Like, the whole point is like he finally got to do the thing that he's been wanting to do, and he realizes that he is not going to become a world famous musician just by playing one night at a jazz bar. It's just something that he's
Yeah,
always wanted to do, and he's never got the
Oh,
chance
and
to.
that's
also,
basically what
I
I was
think,
saying. Just a lot less complicated.
and also something I kind of noticed too is when he kind of noticed, but like when he's like, "That's it," like Dorothea is like, "Yeah," and she just gets into a cab, and it's, I mean, and she's like an established, like well-known underground jazz musician, but she's not like exactly like she's not like riding off in a limo.
Yeah, but she seems
Yeah,
content with her. She seems content with her up. Like she's not trying to bring elevate what she knows her. It's not what's the place for it. She's comfortable with what she's doing. She loves
Yeah,
that. That's what I'm saying. Like if you want to pursue jazz, don't do it to be successful. Do it because you want to do jazz. That's what I was trying to say.
yeah, yes, yes,
um
I
but
agree.
yeah, so after Joe has this experience here, he gets back to his apartment. He's inside his own body, and he starts thinking. He in his pockets are all the different things that 22 just like randomly collected, um, throughout her adventurings through Earth, and it's a bunch of like random stuff. There's like a half-eaten bagel, um, a there's this really like touching scene between Joe, 22, and his mom, where like as a cat, Joe is telling 22 all the things he wish he could say to his mom, but like never had the confidence to. Um, and as a result, he gets to wear like his father's like suit for this show, and there's just all these like memories that he sees from like this last day that he's spent with 22. And so he's looking at them. He puts them out on his piano. He starts playing his piano, and as he starts playing, he enters the zone, um, which then he has the intent to return 22's badge. But upon getting to the zone, he finds that she has now become a lost soul, and she's obsessed with the idea that she has no purpose. Um, Joe chases her down. They end up like Terry designed this award that he insisted that the Jerrys give to him because Terry found the one missing soul, and as
Terry
he's
deserves
like
a reward. I mean, come on.
about to receive the award that Terry created himself,
Yeah.
both a lost soul and Joe bust through the place where they're holding the ceremony, and then the Jerry's like, "Oh well, good thing you have. Looks like you haven't earned this reward quite yet," and just like immediately takes it back from him.
It's bullshit. He found him. He found him. He can't. Terry's not responsible for the escapee anymore. He brought him back. That's Jerry.
Yeah.
See, that's Jerry's responsibility, and they putting it on to Terry. This is fucked up. The group
Yeah, they
is
lost him in
putting
the
it
first
off
place.
on the blame on the individual. It's bullshit.
Everyone needs a scapegoat. That's what Terry's for.
So Joe, chases her down and stuff. And he eventually like makes his way into like this like sand like mental psychosis, and like it's Joe himself just like screaming at himself about like, you only cared about it because it was my body, and like all this stuff, which like to me that wasn't really like so much as an impactful line as it was just like a factual one. But whatever, it severely traumatized her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, it
that
was on
is
Joe's.
like that is a problem I have with this film. But he shows her the sycamore seed, um, like the little like wing kind of seed thing that she had collected. He kept in his pocket somehow and brought to the zone somehow. But he shows it to her to remind her of her time on Earth. Um, and with this, 22 returns to normal. He then returns her badge, and uh, basically she's like very scared to actually like jump into the hole that is the guiding way to Earth. And Joe's like, well, you know what? How about I just follow you as far as I can go? And so he jumps with her, and it's pretty touching scene. Um, uh, After this, he gets brought back to the great before. Um, Joe then prepares to enter the great beyond. However, Jerry stops him and offers him another chance at life, and all the thanks for finally inspiring 22 to live. And this is while another Jerry distracts Terry to manipulate the count so that Terry doesn't think anything is off. Um, and we wake up with Joe the next morning, with his body in with him in his own body, and he wakes up with the realization of, I've been so hyper focused on trying to like make my music my life and stuff, like I haven't spent any time like actually enjoying my life for like the moments that it has in it. So they both learn something from each other, and that's the end of the film.
And I go, well, that's a Pixar movie for you. There you go. Hey. Do we got any other notes? Do we got any production post production notes about this with any interesting facts?
Yeah, I mean, I
I
had
started
some.
to do research, but it was, from what I was understanding, it was your standard Pixar production, so I kind of zoned out with most of my research, so I didn't learn jack shit.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things with this. One, I do think this needs to be highlighted. That this did come out in 2020. And we all know what was going on in 2020. We were in a pandemic. Um, and so I think that is something that like they did mention, I believe, like in the credits, is like people were working from home to like make this film. Um, which I thought was like really cool, that that they did and stuff. And I think like when the world was under a like, I mean, it still is somewhat under. It's more epidemic now than pandemic, but when COVID-19 hit and stuff, like, that changed millions, maybe hundreds of millions of people's lives, in like a pretty major way. And I think this is kind of Pixar touching on that in their own way of like, hey, like, we get it, like, Earth is can be a totally shitty place, but it can also be an okay place too. The production that I have for things like this is, Pixar chose this film to be a musician, because they wanted a profession that the audience could relate to and root for, and they settled for a musician. The original way they tried to do this was with a scientist, but it didn't feel excuse me, in Peter Doctor, who's the director of this film, in his Pete Doctor, in their words, um, they didn't feel nothing. The scientist didn't feel so naturally pure as a musician's life. And Peter Doctor goes on to describe soul as an exploration of where should your focus be? What are things that at the end of the day are really going to be important things that you look back and go, I spent a worthy amount of my limited time on Earth worrying or focused on that. So I thought that was kind of interesting, because I do feel like this could have been a pretty cool film if it was like a young scientist like discovering something, or like a biologist, or like a marine biologist.
Yeah, the
Like,
profession doesn't gotta
that
be
could have been cool too.
relatable. I mean, this is a kids movie. Kids don't have professions. It could be whatever the kids want to be. So you don't. I
Probably would
mean,
have been more boring, honestly, in my opinion. I thought there's like better ways to explore this character than I could definitely see them like, oh, it's the scientist, but none of us we're all animators, so we don't really know much about science, so it's all like not exactly
true,
legit.
true.
So it's always
I,
some like fake science bullshit.
I will have to say most of my points for final thoughts, but I definitely feel this movie had potential. It just didn't do it right.
Yeah. So another thing that I think is interesting about this, um, so Docter conceived of soul in 2016, examining the origin of human personalities and the concept of determinism. Um, he pitched the idea about space time involving souls with personality during his first meeting with Jones, who was a co writer. The film's producers consulted various different jazz musicians, including Herbie Hancock and Terry Lynn Carrington, and animated its musical sequences using the session musicians John Batiste as a reference. Apart from Batiste's original jazz compositions, musicians Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross composed the film score.
Trent
Um,
Reznor known for Nine Inch
From
Nails.
yeah.
yep. Production on Soul lasted for 4 years, and had a budget of approximately $150 million. Sad thing about this film, it is a flop with a box office of 122.2 versus a spent of 150 million.
If I'm not
Um,
mistaken,
th-
that's your standard. That's most Pixar movies now. That's most modern Pixar movies return. It's not good.
yeah. This another thing that I wish this movie would get more credit for, maybe, is this is the first ever Pixar film to feature a black lead.
Oh yeah.
There's never been a
Yes,
black like lead character for any Pixar film.
yes,
Took
it
them long
is.
enough.
Yeah, it did take them long enough. Um, the other thing that I think is really cool about this is that for the John Batiste thing. So all of the music sequences where people are actively playing instruments, they are playing accurately to what they would actually be playing if they were playing that instrument. So like when he's playing those diminished four chords and stuff like on his piano, those are the actual finger placements for those 4 chords. Or like when he starts making that like little chimey noise that he made, that kind of like piano solo that he goes into when he gets into the flow state, that he's playing exactly what he would be playing like
Yeah,
in
and
there.
that's what
And
I was
no,
saying.
nothing's
Oh yeah,
done
go
that
on.
before. No, nothing's done
Yeah,
that before where it's like accurate to like, oh, you're playing, the 8th fret on these strings, or like you're playing, this sequence of keys here, or you're pressing these buttons on the saxophone, or like the trombone slide. Every single time there's a musical instrument depicted in this film, it is accurate to what it would be in real
Well, in
life.
this
which is something
movie,
I
that
feel. Yeah,
I feel
go on.
this is the first movie that has they show their hands when they're playing instruments. I don't feel I've ever seen an animated movie when there's instruments being played where they focus on the hands like they do in this, because they actually show the hands up close and on the keys. So
Yeah,
if they didn't do that, you know how many music nerds would have been pissed.
sure.
They would have been like, "What the
It would
fuck?
have been.
That's not how you play that note. That's not the right. That's not the right finger placements." And it would have been a whole ordeal. They didn't want to deal with that.
Which is definitely something that I feel is like what I was saying before, when I feel like a lot of things would be lost if this was like about a scientist or biologist, or whatever. 'Cause I feel like they wouldn't be able to put that out accurately. I don't think, or as easily. I feel like this is something, that artists. I feel like artists can like understand artists, and I feel like there's an easier. I don't know what I'm scrambling my words here. What I'm trying to
Yeah,
say.
if
No,
I
I
I,
get it.
I
I get
got
what
you.
you're saying.
I got you what
Yeah,
you're saying,
but
dude. I just want to
blah, blah.
state, if it was a scientist, one of my biggest pet peeves to this movie would go away instantly. There's not enough. There's not enough jazz sequences in this. We get that one jazz sequence when he's going between
Yeah.
the dimensions, and that's it.
Oh yeah,
Like
Well,
it
I
needs
needed
more
more of that.
music.
yeah. I would have liked like a full music scene too, of just like even if it was like 3 minutes. It'd be cool just like him like for that final show because we're leading up to that. We got
It
like a
didn't
full
need to
kind of
be
like
all at once.
song.
It didn't need to be all at once, but I definitely needed at least 30 minutes of that. And I didn't get 30 minutes of that. I got 5.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that. I think both you and Murda have a great point in that of like there should have been more of like actual music creation scenes.
Yeah.
Not just
Um,
music create, just more scenes that had jazz in it. There wasn't enough
yeah,
jazz
yeah,
in this. They're just they the movie's called Soul, but where's the fucking soul? I don't hear it. I don't see it. I'll get into it. I'll get into it in my final thoughts.
all right. Tina Fey, who is the supporting actress, I suppose. She contributed heavily to the screenplay when they were creating this, and she actually wrote a lot of her own lines. But she's not credited as a writer.
Mm.
Um,
Cause she
the
would have to be
subway
paid.
train.
She'd have to fucking be paid more, and they're not fucking doing that.
Yeah, pretty much. The subway train that Joe and Mr. Mittens are going on is number 2319. This is a clear throwback to Monsters Inc. On one of the ads on the subway, it's an ad for a company called Brang, which is a startup company, um, which is the startup company of Riley's dad, um, from Inside Out. And we get another Inside Out references as well. There's a broccoli pizza that's exactly the same like animation from the broccoli pizza in Inside Out.
Hmm.
Um, when 22 and Joe walk through 22's house and hangout space, they pass a wall with the name tags of most, if not all, of 22's mentors. In addition to the mentors shown on screen, 22's mentors also included Jack Kirby, Joe Ranft, Aretha Franklin, Grace O'Malley, Mary Johnson, Eleanor Roosevelt, Pablo Picasso, Confucius, Joan of Arc, Amelia Earhart, Harvey Milk, Catherine the Great, Nelson Mandela, Harriet Tubman, Marvin Gaye, George Orwell, Nellie Bly, Mary Curie, Johnny Cash, Vincent van Gogh, Babe Ruth, and Cy Loon. Um,
Well, we know 22 is not going to be gay because if Jonah Arc couldn't get her to want to live.
what the fuck?
Hey, it's
If,
I,
she,
it's
if 22 wasn't sexually attracted to Joan of Arc, oh no, a soul that has no concept of sex.
Hey, Jonah Arc's bust is worth living for. Don't go there. I'm not the only one. History agrees with me. Don't you try to put me in the bad place. I'm being truthful here.
And this will be my last one, and then we can go to final thoughts. I know we've been going for a while here. Pixar was very mindful of the history of racist imagery and animation, especially here in the U.S. And so they wanted to set out to create characters who were recognizably black while avoiding stereotypes. Acknowledging this effort, the director, Pete Docter, said that, quote, "There's a long and painful history of caricatured racist design tropes that were used to mock African Americans," end quote. According to Kemp Powers, who is the co-director of this film, the animators use lighting as a way to highlight the ethnic diversity in the living world. Pixar sought to capture the fine details of these black characters, including the textures of black hair and the way light plays on various tones of black skin.
That
Cinematographer Bradford Young worked as a lighting consultant for this film.
That's all great and dandy, but unfortunately Disney still got a hold of those characters. There is still some classic Disney design in them characters still that I noticed. That the noses and the lips. You can't. I know that was Disney. I know for a fact Pixar wouldn't have done that.
But yeah, that's all I got. For fancy things, I already mentioned Questlove is in this film. Um, there's there's a bunch of different stuff about it, but I think those are probably good highlights of production things.
Cool. I'm
I don't know
assuming
if anyone has anything
everybody
else.
is everybody ready for final thoughts? Because I've
Oh yeah.
Sure.
kind of been
Yeah.
yeah. All right. I'm going to assume I gotta go first.
Yeah.
And if you want, sure, go first.
Go for it.
All right. Well, I'm at a 2. Definitely at a 2. It's if you didn't notice, yeah, the color is just too bland for me. The music, I don't get enough soul. I don't get enough jazz in this. It's there, but what I get, it's basic. It's not. It doesn't. It seems like they got the copyright free stuff and just slapped it in most of the time. None of it feels authentic. It feels like I've heard it all before, and it's like that's not what I expect from jazz. I expect it to be more ska-ish, I guess, and it's not there, and it's modern Pixar is just not for me. It's just no matter what, I can't get into it. Ever since WALL-E is the last movie that I really liked, and anything after that, it's like, it's nah, man. It's something about Pixar is they lost it. Especially this movie. I feel it's so disjointed. I feel that the Afterlife is a completely different, separate movie than when we're in the real world, the living world, it doesn't feel like they're the same worlds. The art design is just drastically different. It it doesn't mesh well together. I understand that it's not supposed to be. We're in a completely different ethereal realm, and it's not going to look like real life. But still, I feel they could have made the art design more similar to each other instead of it contrasting so hard. Uh, the lack of color, it's really my biggest pet peeve. They don't need, again, it doesn't need like an angry soul doesn't need to be red. You don't need to do the inside. Just have it to where I maybe, since this is basically music based, have it to where it's kind of based on the kind of genre of music that the people are into. Like, the people that listen to the hippy dippy stuff are tie dye, and the people that listen to the metal give them the black and the gothic look. Just something else besides blue. It's just so fucking blue. And it's the art design in the real world. It's the realistic elements really clashes with the cartooniness of everything for me. It doesn't mesh well for me. It's not uncanny valley, but it's at the edge of it to where it's like I don't like looking at any of this. It's unpleasant almost to just look at when we're in the real life for me, because it just they tried too hard, and everything almost looks too realistic, and the characters are too cartoonish, and it just the plot doesn't feel like the same movie either. It's too up in the air. We get the all of the happiness at the end as well. He should have remained dead. He should have remained a mentor, and 22 should have been the one to get the life. But they both get to live, and yeah, it's just so disjointed. Everything just. Unfortunately, I think the times when this was being made, I can feel the incompleteness. How this was being made had to be perfected, and this was an unfortunate movie to experience the time that it was being created in. Because if it was being made now, I feel it has, like I said earlier, this movie does have potential. I laugh at some of the jokes. There's some moments that do get me going, but it's too schizophrenic. The message is too basic, and there's no real logic behind anything. It's one beat after another, and nothing gives any time to breathe, because you got to go to the next joke, and you got to get to the next joke, and it's just there's so much that I can keep going, but yeah, 2 out of 5 for me.
Okay. I guess I will go. I think I landed on a 3 for this movie. I did enjoy it. I had no idea what I was going into, because I just didn't. I'm not up to date on Pixar movies. I honestly don't know what the last Pixar movie is that I saw. So I just haven't been up to date. Same with
I
like
think the
Disney
last one you
movies.
saw was Elemental.
Oh, that's true. We did see Elemental for Mother-in-Law coming
And
here.
thanks to
She wanted
Claude,
to
that shit
see
was a
it.
box office success.
I don't. Who was named Claude? Was it the Waterman?
No, it's the guy that's just like the rock guy.
No, it's the plant
Oh,
dude. He's a plant guy.
Yeah.
He gets a flower
Yep.
on it. He's like, look at this, and he's trying to get with the fire girl.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't barely remember that. um,
That's why you go see the
What?
movie.
I did. I guess that is the last one I saw, and I don't like that's something that it's not something I would have sought out myself. Not hating on Pixar movies or anything. It's just not something I usually watch anymore. Um, but I mean, I was surprised by this movie. I enjoyed it. The blue didn't bother me any. No issues with that. Um, I did like the music a lot, but I do agree that there should have been more of it. Seeing as this movie was like based around a character with a love for jazz music, like that is his soul spark, or I guess what he thought was his soul spark. Yeah, so there should have been more of it, I think. Um, I can see how Smokey, you would say like the movie's a little disjointed. It did jump around a lot. Like it almost seemed like three separate episodes. If that makes sense. But in the end, like I thought it was still very well done. Like a lot of the concepts were really cool of the before life place. I like that. I did laugh at some of the jokes for sure. I had no problem with the designs. Pixar always plays up people's features, like no matter what their race is, so I didn't really have an issue with that, um, like specifically. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It didn't like I can't give it over a 3.5 because I did want to be more engaged. Like something about it, I just wasn't the most engaged I could have been the whole time. Um, I don't know if that was a case of just state of mind at the time or the movie itself, but I wasn't transported. It didn't take me away. Some movies do. Um, so I can't give it any higher, but that being said, I do think it's a very well done movie. And I could definitely see it being like some people's favorite movie. I also like movies to me don't have to have like a new message at all, but I definitely have seen this message before. You were so busy living that you weren't living. You weren't enjoying life. It's definitely not a new message or concept or a lesson at the end. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a very good movie, even if I wasn't super engaged. I could have 3.5.
So
Hey,
is it
hey.
a 3 or 3.5?
Didn't I say 3.5?
I
You
thought
said
you
three
only
before,
said
but
3.
Oh,
now
I
you
said
said
three.
three.
Okay, okay, let's go three. Three. I think that's
Three.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify for the rating
No,
cards.
no. I thought yeah. We got you. Yeah, 3.
All right.
Go, Spooge.
I thought about it, and you know what? It was very surprising because I too am not a big fan of newer Pixar. Honestly, even kind of looking back, some of the older Pixar doesn't like hold up as much to me anymore. I mean, other than like Incredibles and Wall-E, I think was like the peak ones. Shut up. And but this one was definitely kind of like third because this. I mean, I agree with many of the issues others share here. That I think there should have been more music. I think that would have been interesting, even if it. Like I understand why they kind of like cut it a little bit because you gotta keep jingling them keys in front of the kids. You can't just like show them like an actual like jazz show and have them like have an experience. That's too boring. Um, but but yeah, I mean, I found one thing that I've noticed from a lot of the fucking Pixar films that I've seen, just of like working at the theater, is that there wasn't like any jokes in here that really made me like roll my eyes, and I even laughed a little bit at some of the, some of the humor landed pretty well. There's nothing really annoying like that really annoyed me in this, which is there's always something in a lot of like newer animated stuff that just like makes me want to like blow my brains out, just rolling my eyes. Um, Nothing cringy. This didn't make me cringe, which I have to give it a good points on. And also, I do agree, not really a new message either, but I like the little bit of balls that they had when they kind of when I think yeah, Joe was talking about so like what's my spark, what's my purpose, and I think it was one of the Jerry's that was like, oh, how primitive, going on about purpose, which is a pretty cool, like, kind of secular take, nice to see in a mainstream movie. um but yeah, it was surprising, but it wasn't amazing to me. And also, I mean, just personal aesthetic. I just have like, honestly, just more of a nitpick with like just the style of Pixar. It's just not what attracts my eye. I could even say like, I mean, one of my favorite movies is probably like, is probably less good animated than this film, like objectively, and that's Heavy Metal. But I have more of a wild ride with Heavy Metal. So yeah,
Oh,
three out
it's
of
such a
five.
different style though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's just ain't my style. But I appreciate the jazz.
What's your rating?
It's a 3 out of 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
All right, Starfish. That
Um.
just leaves you.
Yep. So I am someone who has been attracted to making music for pretty much my whole life. So this movie got its hooks in me like pretty early. There was a time in my life where I considered becoming like a music teacher, like actually, getting like a general education, like bachelor's and stuff, and just like being, the band teacher, the music teacher and stuff. Um, so like this like really grabbed me right away, but I will say that like it just like that classic song, it told me to hold on loosely, but don't let go. And one of the reasons I needed to hold on loosely is because it is so kind of off-puttingly paced. um I think everyone's kind of touched on that. My main thing where that goes is that like it's a whole lot of, it feels like a whole lot of rushing to like land on like an important scene, and then the important scene is great, and you're like lost in that moment for a second, and then you're back out of it again, and we're hurrying up to the next scene, um, like the next important scene. Um, and I think that like because of that, it really detracts from the film. Um, I also will echo everyone else's thoughts of I would have preferred the background music, like the scores outside of the jazz like bar scene and stuff, to be like actual, doesn't necessarily need to be like free form jazz, but like play me something with like a string bass, some light drums, and like a saxophone or like a trumpet. Like especially when they were running around through the city, like that would have been a great place for like a kind of frantically paced, like quick jazz, like three-piece like jazz ensemble. And so there was a lot of missed opportunities. And I think for me, the biggest missed opportunity that they had is not even necessarily the music. It's that this film is trying to say so much in so many different directions that ultimately it became redundant, collapsed in on itself, and basically said, "Hey, make sure you enjoy your life. Enjoy those day-to-day moments, enjoy being like present in the moment and stuff." And I do think that that's a fine message to have, but it is a very tired one. We have been seeing that message be broadcast to us through films for a very long time. I think one of the first ever ones to do that is that like Christmas film. I forget the name of it if anyone wants to remind me, but it's that one where like the dude like is like commits suicide and then he sees like what
It's
his
a
life.
Wonderful Life.
Yeah, that's the one. And that's a very old classic film. Um, and although I do think that message is important, especially in the hustle and bustle of modern life and stuff like that, it's also like how much are we going to play on this trope? I think a better message for this film would be to follow your passions, and like if you follow them, like it'll work out. I think that would have been more enhancement. And what they could have given us is they could have given an ending credits where, oh, Dorothea Williams featuring Joe Gardner on keys, like, oh, now they're touring, and like or like something like that. Like they don't necessarily have to be like wildly successful, but like maybe they land a record deal like during the credits and stuff because Joe's finally following his passion and stuff, and not like it could have been better executed. Um, to kind of wrap this up here, um, COVID-19 and being socially distanced while making this film, Pixar does like specifically mention that, and it does kind of show. I do think that if they would have kind of focused the narrative and focused the ideas a little bit better, it would have come out as a better formed piece. But I do think like because of teams not collaborating in the way that they're accustomed to, kind of lends itself to this like kind of weirdly paced, like as people mention, like three different episodes, or like this is like this seems like a completely different movie than this. I think that like there are a couple of transitions that land, and then there's a couple of transitions that are just like jarring. And it's I'm not going to go into detail with naming all those, but for me, ultimately, this is a 3.5 out of 5. um, the voice acting work I felt was great, and if the voice acting work was not on this caliber, I don't think it would be rated this high.
Oh
Because
yeah.
definitely every single character, to me, like the main characters we spend time with, and even the side characters like Dez, for example, or Paul, who's like, they have 3 lines in the film, maybe. Um, they feel alive, and they feel like they have their own motivations. So like even the quote unquote static characters aren't truly static. They're three-dimensional characters, but we don't get to see into their lives as deeply as we do with others. And that's also why I called out Dorothea Williams, because she is very much a large and in charge character. And you get that right from the first interaction with her. And I think every character you get that with. And I think to pull that off in an animated film is difficult to achieve. But yeah, 3.5 out of 5.
Nice.
Nice,
I
nice.
definitely, I definitely agree with that. Because I forgot to mention that too. That the acting in this is really good. It's probably actually, like just on Jamie Foxx's acting, like alone, separating like anything else from this film. Like probably what some of his best work.
Yeah, and I mean I think Tina Fey does a brilliant job too.
Mhm.
Um, I also really love Richard Ayoda, so anytime he's in anything, I'm super stoked about it. Questlove as Curly does a really good job too.
Mhm.
Someone not necessarily known for acting. Like Curly is a very believable character to me because of the way that Questlove does it.
Mhm.
Animation styles aside, like I don't have a huge problem with Pixar animation, but like I
I
will say
gotta
it's it's
before
not everybody's
I
cup of
gotta
tea.
say the voice acting is why this doesn't get a Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
that pushed it up to a 1, and just the fact that I didn't outright dis Dane watching it this go around gave it another point. That's how it got its
Yeah,
2 points.
Graham Norton as Moonwind is also excellent too.
Oh yeah.
You know, also like fairly diverse cast as well, which is really cool to see.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think we've done it. I think that's it. Does anybody have anything else to add?
I forgot to also mention that I kind of would have preferred if like if Joe's character died too. I think that would have been a more impactful ending if he's kind of accepted and was
Absolutely.
like, oh, you know what? Yeah,
That's what I
I
wanted.
did. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought
Yeah,
that's what was
absolutely.
going to happen,
hmm I think that would
but
have
it
been
didn't.
more interesting at the
It
very
would have
least.
been better. Like he could have totally been kept being a mentor. I mean, that's still a happy
Oh yeah,
ending.
that'd be cool. hmm
I have two things. The last two things that I have for this is if you are someone who plays any type of instrument, watch this film simply for the fact that it's enjoyable to watch like animators get music creation and music playing like accurately. I think that also kind of like hooked me into it too because I was like, oh, they're actually doing like what they would be doing. Like it's just really novel to see. So like I enjoyed that aspect of it. And then I have an outro.
Okay, so this is where I go. Hey, if you've been listening this long, thank you so much. Please, if you don't mind, leave a like, comment what you think below, and share the video around. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. And this is where I ask, hey, does my co-host have a sign off? Because I got one.
You know I do. I guess I'll go first. What's wrong, Teach? It's just I've been waiting for this day for my entire life. I thought I'd feel different. I heard this story about a fish. He swims up to the older fish and says, I'm trying to find this thing they call the ocean. The ocean, says the older fish. That's what you're in right now. This, says the young fish, this is water. What I want is the ocean. See you tomorrow.
It's deep.
Yep. That's
Was-
Dorothea after their show talking to Joe.
Do you have a sign off, Murda?
I wasn't clever and I didn't think of anything. That's my sign off.
What about
Spooge.
the Troll's Toll?
The Trolls Toll?
Yeah. You know, to get into this boy's soul.
Spooge, do you get one?
Spooge?
Spooge?
Is he muted?
I don't know.
Oh, I was.
I think so.
Hello.
I was muted. I got so.
I got
Okay. And my sign off. Gonna go with my new favorite. I gotta remind everybody that cats die, music fades, but art is for keeps. And go hail Henry Zabrowski, you motherfuckers. This will be a bye-bye.
Cats should never die.
yeah, it's true. I hate that.
Goodbye.
See you next
Goodbye.
time.
Cats die.
Yeah, cats die.
I can't eat. I can't sleep.
Why?
I'm keeping all this in.
That's fine.
What am I doing with my life?